Hello and welcome. Today I want to start by going over a couple problems from those reading notes from the other day because I finally got a chance to look over them. I just want to talk about these last two in particular. Um, so you'll notice for all of these ratios, we are simplifying each by just doing the numerator divided by the denominator. And that's what I think you wrote down in question number 13 is you can just do numerator divided by a denominator. And you'll notice you must have all of your answers labeled. And there's, basically two different ways you could label your answer. You could say, okay, 12 cookies divided by 3 people is 4 cookies per person. You could label it like this. Or you could label it with a fraction, and this means, $1.599 per gallon is what this means. And if you wanted, you could also say that this on the bottom here is 1 gallon, because that's what that means when you divide, you're finding the number of dollars per 1 gallon. And then here, minutes divided by miles is minutes per mile. Google Meets divided by hours is the number of Google Meets per hour. And again, you could write it as a fraction. And again, you can put a 1 here, meaning that it's per 1 hour. Or if you just leave it like that, that implies that it's the number 1. These two were slightly different though, because this one, you still should divide numerator divided by denominator. That's 1 divided by 5, and you will get 0.2. And the label for that would be rolls of toilet paper per, you're dividing by people, so it's per person. And you could say per 1 person if you'd like. You could put a 1 there, or without the 1, it implies the number 1 because the word person is singular. But I really wanted to make sure we talk about the last one because you can still simplify this using these same strategies. So in the last one, we did numerator divided by a denominator to get 0.2. For this one, we should do 0 divided by 400, which is 0. Yes, this can be simplified. You should do 0 divided by 400, and it should be 0. And your label is 0 students per footer, because there are no students for each Taher footer. All right, so next let's take a look at today's lesson. We're continuing chapter 8. In your reading, we talked about ratios, and in yesterday's work, we looked at ratios. Today, we're going to look at these other two parts of unit analysis. So we're going to start with some unit conversions. So let's take a look at what that looks like. A leaky faucet drips 1 fluid ounce every 30 seconds. How many gallons of water will leak from this faucet in a year? And what we're going to be using to solve this is something called dimensional analysis, also known as the multiplying by 1 method. And we looked at this a little bit yesterday as well. But today we're going to use this method to actually convert from one unit to another. And here's some facts you probably need to know. And for questions like this, you might have to look some of these things up. Like, if I want to change ounces to gallons, I first need to know, like, these conversions. There are 8 ounces in a cup, there are 2 cups in a pint, there are 2 pints in a quart, and there are 4 quarts in a gallon. And if you don't know those, that might be something you need to look up before you do a problem. And then I also need to change seconds to years, so you need to think about the fact that there's, 60 seconds in a minute, 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, and we're going to use 365 days in a year because most years have 365 days. So these are all the conversion factors that I'll need to do this problem. So I start by writing this as a ratio, the information I'm given. The ounces every 30 seconds, so I start with that fraction, 1 ounce every 30 seconds. But then I'm going to use these conversion factors to convert. So I multiply it by 60 seconds over 1 minute, because 1 minute is equal to 60 seconds, and I want seconds on the top, so it will cancel with this seconds on the bottom, and that will convert it into minutes. And the reason why this is also called the multiplying by 1 method is because when you're dividing two things that are equal, you get 1. Anything divided by itself is 1. And 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. So this fraction here is really kind of like the number 1 because 60 seconds and 1 minute are the same, and anything divided by itself is 1. Well, then I need to change minutes to hours, and the way I do that is I multiply by 60 minutes over 1 hour, since minutes are on the bottom here and top here, they cancel. Then I change hours to days, so I multiply by, I put hours on top and days on the bottom, so that the hours will cancel. And then I change days to years by putting days on top and years on the bottom. 365 days is equal to 1 year, so that days will cancel with that days. And now if I just multiply these together, I will get ounces per year. But I also want to change it to gallons instead of ounces. So I'm now going to start using these conversions. Since I have ounces on top here, I want ounces on the bottom of this next fraction so that this ounces on top will cancel with this ounces on the bottom. And ounces, 8 ounces are equal to 1 cup, so I put 1 cup over 8 ounces. And now to get rid of cups, I use this conversion factor to change cups to pints. I put cups on the bottom so that cup will cancel with those cups, and 1 pint is equal to 2 cups. And then I use pints to quarts, and I want, since pints are on top here, I want pints on the bottom here, and 1 quart is equal to 2 pints. And then I change quarts to gallons, and I want quarts on the bottom, so it will cancel with that quarts, and 4 quarts are equal to 1 gallon. And finally, you'll notice all my labels are crossed out except for, where are they here? On the bottom I have year, and on the top I have gallons. So what I'm going to be left with when I multiply all these fractions together will be gallons per year, and that's exactly the question I was asked, how many gallons in a year? So what do I do to multiply fractions together? I multiply everything on the top together, I multiply everything on the bottom together, and then you divide, top divided by bottom. And when you do that, you should get 8,212.5, and that's, again, gallons per year. So that is an example of using dimensional analysis to do unit conversions. Your homework tonight is a worksheet, the unit conversion worksheet, which I've posted online, both pages of that. So there is something I wanted to talk about here. The first page should be pretty straightforward. Here are, conversion or unit equivalents that you might use. But then on the second page, there's one word that I need to define here. This is an example of a compound unit. These are passenger miles per gallon. And what passenger miles mean is it's the total number of miles for all the passengers combined. Okay, and then there's another problem that has passenger miles as well. This is called a compound unit because it's both passengers and miles. It's the total number of miles for all the passengers. All right. So if you got any questions about any of that homework, please shoot me an email and let me know. Have a great day.